So students, let us discuss about 13th January 2016 newspaper. The first issue is related to the Jallikattu. As elections are forthcoming, in Tamil Nadu, Jallikattu has become an important issue. And as a fungal festival gift, center has given or exempted bulls from the list of the performing animals. So it means, let us see the brief history of this. In 2011, government has issued an order which has said that the cruelty to the animals has to be prohibited and animals cannot be used as a performing animals or performing actions. Even bulls cannot be used as performing animals. Their very nature, being a domesticating animals, will not allow them to do this particular Jallikattu-like functions. The 2014 Supreme Court judgment has upheld this governmental order and said that the Jallikattu is violative of various legal provisions. The section 3 and 11 of Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1916, it is rightly against to the Jallikattu. In this case, January 7th, the government has amended the 2011 order, saying that the bulls will be exempted from the list of the performing animals. Bulls can be used as the performing animals. It means the Jallikattu was made as legal. It also has issued certain restrictions or safeguards how the animals have to be protected. So in this case, the governmental argument is this. As there are safeguards against the misuse of or causing the cruelty to animals, in the name of the tradition of Tamil Nadu, the Jallikattu has to be allowed. So in this case, Animal Welfare Board of India, it has challenged its ministry's decision to issue a notification amending the 2011 order, led to Supreme Court stalling the entire Jallikattu actions or activity for the 2016 festive season. So in this case, the Tamil Nadu government has requested the center to pass an ordinance in this context. So it brings in too many legal complications now. So already in government through an executive action tried to override the judgment of the Supreme Court. And passing an ordinance is the next stage. So in this case, the Supreme Court already has given a clear judgment in DC Wadhwa versus State of Bihar case. In this case, the Supreme Court said there is no arbitrary right to promulgate ordinance for the executive. Only under the exceptional circumstances and with the situation demands for it, then only the center can promulgate an ordinance. It shall not be to override the legislative power of the parliament. So in a democracy, the citizens have the rights to make or to get the laws according to the provisions of the constitution and according to the institutions who are prescribed to do this job. So it cannot be overridden by the executive. So this is Dr. DC Wadhwa versus State of Bihar case. So in this context, if the government passes an ordinance, then it will be a fight between judiciary and executive, and added to that, so it appears that there can be contempt of court can be filed against the government in this particular issue. Now coming to the Jean Rees article, it is based on a series of experiments or field studies which are done in West Bengal, Bihar and Chhattisgarh. Now the essence of the article goes like this. If you take National Food Security Act, so the criteria for distribution of the grains, it is per capita allocation. It means every individual is allocated the grains, 5 kgs of grains, at the price is 3:1. So in this context, the states are supposed to choose the beneficiaries. So only a minority of the fraction of the people will be excluded in the rural areas. That is, 75% have to be selected. The remaining 25% are excluded in the rural areas. So in this context, when a minority is excluded, the effort which has to be taken up to exclude this minority and the cost necessary to be incurred to exclude this minority of the population, they are much higher than providing for a universal PDS. And second problem is the challenges in excluding or errors in excluding these people can lead to loss of the food security advantage towards the weak and marginalized. And third thing is, these 25% of the people who are, majority of them who are excluded from the rural areas, they will be from the middle class. And this middle class generally sustains the pressure on the system for the quality services in this context. So instead of going for few exclusion criteria, we can go for the universal PDS. And the second thing is, with regard to the implementation of the National Food Security Act, so we can take certain experiments which are being done. So the socio-economic caste census, it is the basis for identifying the beneficiaries under the National Food Security Act. So in case of West Bengal, the criteria was the government going and identifying the people, and any complaints that comes up, it tries to rectify that. And in the case of the Orissa or Odisha, the government gave a self-declarationary exercise where a person can declare himself that he is eligible under the program, and administration will verify that. So in this criteria, you have to rely on the reliability of the administrative mechanism. Finally, so the Jharkhand, etc., where the coverage is more than 80% plus. So in these states, it is better. The country has to move towards the universal PDS system. There is a beautiful point at the end. In India, under the NFSA, we are only providing for the carbohydrate nutritional security, not complete balanced nutritional security. So in this context, PDS is not equivalent to NFSA. PDS can cover more products such as pulses, etc. And NFSA is not just about the PDS. If you carefully observe, NFSA also has the nutrition to the mothers, and also early childhood nutrition, and midday meal program is also under NFSA now. So don't equate the PDS and NFSA as co-equivalents to each other. The waning luster of the budget. Now you can update your notes on the budget through this. If you observe, budget is a political instrument that is a syllabus in public administration. Now budget as a policy document, it is losing its sheen. Previously, all major announcements are made in the budget. Budget is a break or make event for the business. Nowadays, the announcement of the government, the mid-year announcements of the government with regard to various policies are increasing. The reason being is the government is not willing to wait for 1 year to take necessary policy actions if it thinks they are fit to announce. The recent LPG subsidy announcement is one such a thing. So in this context, we can say that the budget is more becoming an accounting document rather than a policy document. So it is due to the changing circumstances of the country's financial system and policy making system itself. And the second thing is, previously over the budget, the finance ministry enjoyed utmost authority, but now the Prime Minister's office is gaining the control over the budgetary exercise. In this context, the Prime Minister's office, does it have financial experts to deal with the budget and policy decisions, is the question posed by it. So in this case, the budget as a policy document, you can use that as trends in changing towards the budget. So this is a direct topic in the second paper of public administration, budget as a policy document and a political instrument. And the next is, coming to Sri Lanka issue, recently a meeting of Sri Lankan Economic Forum was held. In this case, the neoliberalistic path was suggested for Sri Lanka, where the foreign capital has to guide the Sri Lankan development and also the urbanization. It is so here the Ranil Wickremesinghe government, the Prime Minister is more favored towards this neoliberal approach. So in this context, The author argues that the increasing inequalities and inequalities which are distributed across the ethnic lines, it is one of the reasons why politically the civil war was precipitated in Sri Lanka. In this reconciliatory phase of Sri Lankan politics, it is more an inclusive economic agenda is necessary. So in this context, an agenda which is focused on rural development, fisheries, and providing for proper land distribution, this is what is necessary. On the other hand, the Colombo beautification project, urbanization and redistribution, or else the increasing the land prices ultimately will lead to economic crisis situations that is visible in Southeast Asia, East Asia, everywhere. So instead of going for an economic misadventurism as suggested by the global capitalists, we shall go for, or the Sri Lanka shall go for, sustainable developmental approach that is inclusive. Now, Afghanistan peace talks. Now, yesterday's newspaper or yesterday's video, if you see, I have talked about certain red lines. So, the red lines which are given by the erstwhile Karzai government, that is, the Taliban shall agree to the Afghanistan constitution. So the talks have to be direct and it has to be an Afghan-led process. Now in this case, the Pakistan, America and Afghanistan government together, they are trying to engage the Taliban. And Taliban among themselves have many internal feuds and factions. Especially after the death of Mr. Mullah Omar, these factions have got much stronger. So in this context, to what extent this engagement will move forward is a question. So this particular, the marathon session did not yield anything. The direct talks with Taliban, this is the thing. Now Uday scheme. If you remember, Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana, it wanted to reform the entire discoms distribution companies. So in this case, what the Uday does is this. State governments are mostly responsible for the failing of the discoms. The low electricity prices, heavily subsidized electricity prices, and higher cost of the coal for the generation companies. And added to that, not adequate coal which has been provided to them, and low plant load factor. All these are the reasons for the failure of the discoms. And most of the failures lie in the electoral promises of the state governments. So in this case, the 75% of the total debt of the discoms has to be taken by the state governments. Remaining 25%, the state governments have to assure for the bonds which will be issued by the discoms into the open market. In that way, the burden is more shifting to the state governments, then it will feel the pinch of loss to the which is happening to the discoms. So 15 states have passed this. So now, it means the Uday scheme is been applauded, is going to be a reformatory by the CRISIL. So that is what is the thing. Now coming to the defense procurement norms. The analysis of the defense procurement norms is not very clear over here, but try to note these defense procurement norms. They are in line with the Make in India. So a separate category called IDDM is created, indigenously designed, developed and manufactured. So under this there are two subcategories. So if the 40% of them is indigenously designed, developed, then it will get the contract. If it is not designed by Indians, then 60% if it is locally manufactured, yes, it will get the procurement by the defense establishment. And next is, the Department of Defense will finance the R&D projects. Now offset policy is also amended. It has raised from 300 crore to 2000 crore because the 300 crore as a limit or else offset policy which is talking about local procurement of greater than 30% if the value of the so-called contract is greater than 300 crores. It is unnecessarily increasing the cost of the so-called projects. So in this context, it was raised to 2000 crores. So these are the MSMEs are also allowed into this particular parade in which The make category will be divided into government funded, industry funded from the micro, small, medium enterprises. In that way, it will give impetus to the micro industries too. So we can say it is focused around innovation, make in India, and micro, small, medium enterprises. The new defense procurement policy is. But there are criticisms which are growing up. Let us look how these criticisms will come up, because this is the first article after announcing it yesterday. So we can see more number of articles flowing in. Thank you very much. All the best.